Hey, it's Jessie from Squeegee & Ink, and in this video we're going to show you all about this. This is the International Coatings Pantone mixing system, which is plastisol ink, especially for t-shirt printers. So if I pop that down because it's pretty heavy, we found that this ink mixing system is indispensable in our studio, and I just want to tell you all about it because it's been really consistent. It's really useful to have when you're printing custom jobs for clients because it's a universal standard of colours that are available to us. We can mix them really easy, they're opaque, and they just print on those shirts and cure really nice and smooth. So I'm going to take you through the whole process of how we find what the Pantone colour is, how we mix those up, and finally how we're printing with them. This is the design that we're going to be printing today. It's the Fake Jack 6-colour design, and I just wanted to let you know that we fund our YouTube channel through the sale of our Blind Maggot shirts, and Blind Maggot is our own brand, and we want to give all of our Squeegee viewers a massive £10 off every shirt when you enter the code Squeegee at checkout, and I'll put that in the description below as well. One of the most common and easiest ways to figure out what Pantone code your colour is to use a Pantone coated reference book. So I'm saying coated because that is the most similar in real life to what plastisol ink would appear on a t-shirt. So you would basically get the book, match up the colour, and there you go, you've got the code. In our studio we find that most of our customers rarely give us those Pantone reference colours. So I'm going to show you how we break it down in our studio using Illustrator, where we select the colour, distinguish the Pantone, and then we've got our formula ready to mix up. I'm on Adobe Illustrator now, and this is just a typical mock-up, so we make these for all of our designs, just to make sure we're all on the same page. And this is the Fake Jack t-shirt mock-up. So over here you can see that we've got our colours specified, and they're just being picked out of the design, which is a nice little vector over here. In order to distinguish what these Pantones are, there's a couple of ways you could do it. But I'm going to show you a really quick way that I've found that works nicely. The first thing I'm going to make sure I've got is that my colour mode, document colour mode, is in that CMYK colour. That's just a really good habit to get into with this type of thing. And I'm literally just going to drag over all these colours, so all 6, and then I'm going to go down here to the swatches tab. So I've got mine open already, but you could just find that on Window and then Swatches, which is here. So mine's already ticked. Then I'm going to go over to this file which says New Colour Group. When I click that, it's going to say you can name your colour group. So I'm just going to call it Fake Jack Pantone. Fake Jack Pantone. Press OK. And then it's distinguished all of those, and it's taken them and put them as little baby swatch cards. If I click on this file here, double click on there, then what I want to do is assign these colours that I've picked to the nearest Pantone references in the colour book, which is that coated Pantone book. So if I go down here and I say, I'm just going to make sure it's selected, so I'm going to just click that whole thing so it's highlighted. Go down here and I'm going to say limit the colour group to colours in a swatch library. So Illustrator's got all these preloaded, so if I click on there and I say colour books, then if I scroll down to Pantone solid coated, then it's going to find the nearest ones in the book. Then I can press OK, save changes, yes. And then if you go down here, as you hover over these little colours, it's assigned the nearest Pantone colour to those, and it's changed them very slightly. So that's bloody quick, and it's going to save you loads of time. Now we can just upload these Pantone references. So this one, for example, is 346C. I can upload that, get the formula, and then it'll have the breakdown of those inks that I need to mix in order to get that perfect colour. As I'm using the International Coating system, they've already got all the formulas broken down on their website. So that's the iccultramix.com. I'll put the link to that in the description below as well. Once I've distinguished what my Pantones were in Illustrator, now I can just hop on their little list which is this drop down at the top, and I can pick those Pantones and it'll give me the formula breakdown of how much I need to mix. So the first one is this 101C. As I jump into that, it does the breakdown already. So at this point, if you know you're going to print hundreds of thousands, you can actually do a calculation to tell you how much you need for that print job. I'm just going to go into mixing up 200 grams for this particular one, so I've input 200 there, and this is just going to break it down into how many grams of each colour that I need to get that quantity at the end. So 101C is mixed up of fluorescent lemon yellow, quite a chunk of mixing white, a little bit of yellow, normal yellow, and then a little dash of marine blue. So this formula is ready to print. I'm just going to press Command P and get that one printed so I can bring it over to my mixing little area and get that formula mixed up. By using the Pantone mixing system, we know that if we hold just this range of colours and don't hoard the inks, that we're able to mix the full spectrum in that Pantone book in accordance to what the customer's asking for. So we don't need to buy an off-the-shelf orange, slightly tint it and kind of figure it out visually. We know that we've got all of them in stock ready here. We've just done it on a few simple shelves, and just stacking them one deep just means they're really accessible. We've also got our little mixing pots, which are holding like 200 to 300 grams. Or if we've got a really big print job, we can do a whole kilogram at once. We've also got a little stack of mixing cards, which I'm going to show you later when we're mixing the colours. And I've also got my spatulas ready to go. So what I'm trying to communicate here is that we've got this nice little station, we're prepped, ready to go, and we can mix any colour really quickly, and we know that we're going to get it consistent because we're following the Pantone system. When it comes to scales, you need to make sure that when you're using your formula that the breakdowns are readable on those scales. So for example, if I was printing hundreds of shirts, my formula is going to be telling me like 2 grams of that, 5 grams of this colour. So I could just use some normal kitchen scales because that can read the full grams. However, we found in our studio when we're printing 50 to 100 shirts, the formulas are giving us values like 0.8 grams, for example. We found that the normal kitchen scales weren't reading that kind of value, so we've opted for some finer scales. So this can read down to 0.01 grams. So you can really put in tiny little amounts and it will read it perfectly. So that's the scale that I'm going to be using for this particular job. I'm mixing this 101C colour, which is kind of yellow. I'm going to grab my pot and pop it on my scales. So you might notice there it's reading as 12 grams. We don't want the pot weight to mess up any of our formula, so I'm going to press tear. That basically puts the value on the scale down to 0, so then now I can start measuring out my smallest quantity. I tend to go for the smallest ones first, just in case you need to scoop it out and you don't get a mess. So my first and smallest colour is this marine blue, 0.8 grams. I found early on that if you try and use spatulas for all of your mixing, you're going to do loads and loads of cleanup. So I've got these little pieces of scrap card that I just rip off into small little bits, and they're really handy for just mixing small quantities. When in the international coating system, marine blue is one of our most predominant colours, so it comes in one of these larger tubs. And I know that 0.8 is actually quite a small amount, so I'm going to just start off with a tiny bit on the corner, scrape that off into the tub and see what it values. It's going quite a lot over a gram, so I'm just going to hack off a little bit of it and just keep applying until I get really close. So there's just a tiny fraction less, a tiny bit more. Awesome. I'm on 0.8 now on the scales. So I tend to just throw these in a little pile so that it doesn't get everywhere, just with that little tab, and I'm ready with my first colour. Next colour, which is the smallest value, is just the normal yellow, so I can go ahead and get that one out too. This is 100% faster than like trying to guess in your head what a colour is mixed up with. This just saves so much time. So to get in order to get that 32.4, you could be adding them as you go to get the total, but I tend to just press tear, get it down to 0 again. Now I'm going to try and get it up to that 32.4 with my yellow. I can scrape off a good wad. I am right at the bottom of this tub, so I have accidentally got it on my knuckles, but I'm going to twist it round, scrape it off into my tub. So I'm going for that 32.4, I'm at 30 now. Bang on, okay. Stop messing with it when it's really, really, really close. I can scrape that off, get rid of this bit of card. I've made a bit of a mess of my gloves, so I'm going to just put a new one on. And we're on to the next colour. So this is 78.3 grams of my mixing white, so that's really easy as well. I'll tear this off, so it's at 0 again, and I'm ready to put in my white. I never really put the lids all the way down because with plastisol ink it's not like evaporating like water-based, so I just have them loose on the top so they don't get dusty with all the lint. Yeah, scrape off. That'll probably reach into the bottom of the tub, and I'm trying to go for 78.3. So it's a big old chunk, and with a bit of practice you can kind of guess how much you need to scoop off to hit that value. So that's 39, that's about half of it. Another one of those. 78. That's 75, just a fraction more. It's probably just exactly what's left on that card. 70. If you're a perfectionist, this probably isn't the job for you because you'll be there for ages getting the 0.0 grams out. Awesome. I can scrape off any excess. As long as that hasn't touched any of the other colours in your tub, you can scrape it back off into the white. I can place the lid loosely on there, and then I'm back on for my Flora Lemon, which is a good chunk of 88 grams for that one. I've got my fluorescent lemon, which is really, really crazy, shocking yellow there. I'm going to tear out my last colour so it just reads 0. And now I can just finish off getting that 88.4 grams in there. This is the good thing about these Pantone mixing systems, because you can put in those nice vibrant colours, and then when they print, they really pop off the shirt, and they look really dynamic instead of the more like flat look that you might get with DTG printing. That was ready to scrape off, chuck down there, put this pot back, and now I can give this colour a nice good stir up and get it all nice and smooth, ready to print. At this point I can use my spatula, and you know I always bang on about these silicone kitchen spatulas just because they clean up really nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and fold that all into itself. We're giving it a good stir. I just think it's much quicker because if you try and figure out these colours by eye, you might be there faffing for ages. You might put a little bit too much of one colour in and go the other way, whereas this is just going to speed it up, and you know that mixing a new Pantone colour is only ever going to take you like 5 minutes. At this stage, you'll be able to add in any of those additives that you'd like to put in. So for example, you could make this a puff ink by adding puff additive to make it all puff up when it's hot. Or some people like to put in curable reducer, which makes the plastisol ink a little bit smoother and flow nicer when it's on the screen. As you can see by the consistency of this type of ink, we don't need any curable reducer. We're just good to go, straight out the pot. Going to put that on the screen and get printing. We've just finished printing this 6-colour design. This is the fake Jack one from Blind Maggot, and we're incredibly impressed with the vibrancy of these colours, especially that yellow, which has got a little dash of fluorescent in there, which just really makes it pop. We've printed it on this kind of like natural instead of the bleached white shirt, and we just think it cured really well. So I did it at 165 degrees centigrade through the dryer just once. And we've done a couple of little tests on flexibility of that ink, and it's held out really nicely. So I don't think it could have been easier. The ink is nice and opaque, so they're all nice and consistent and smooth. And yeah, I just massively recommend the International Coatings mixing system. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you hit subscribe, then you'll be notified of our next video. Just to remind you, this design is from our own collection, which is our own brand, Blind Maggot, and you can find these limited edition shirts at blindmaggot.co.uk. We're also giving all of our Squeegee viewers a £10 discount when they buy these shirts, so you just write Squeegee in the checkout to get some money off. Please like the video and also ask any questions in the comments below. This is the Blind Maggot shirt, and you can get this with, sorry, I'm really sorry.